everyone, so today I wanted to talk about a common injury that a lot of people get, especially now that it's spring and a lot of people are starting to train more, run more, walk more, or just play sports more. And that common injury that a lot of people get comes right here in the shins, and it's called shin splints. And this is a silly injury because it looks like nothing is wrong with you. It's not like you sprained an ankle. You didn't break a bone technically, but it just hurts so bad to run and do these other things. And it's just actually really, really painful. People who have shin splints really suffer from it because a lot of times once you get it, it's really hard to get rid of for two reasons: because you don't know how to get rid of it. The other reason is because you just, once you get it, it's hard to prevent the injury until you really stop working out or training. So I want to talk about shin splint prevention and what to do if you have shin splints to help the healing process come a lot faster. So first of all, what shin splints is actually little tiny cracks in your shin bone. Like, it's not a full bone break, but once you get shin splints, you do have to be aware, because if you keep running on it, you can actually crack your bone and you can hurt yourself. I mean, it's not super common, but it can happen. So anytime you have pain in your shins, but runners get this a lot, soccer players, any people who have a high volume running sport usually get this injury a lot. So shin splints is something that every time your foot hits the ground, it hurts. So think about when you're running, you're putting 3 to 5 times your body weight every time you run. You're pounding, and that's like pounding, and you're making little tiny cracks in your bone, and it just hurts really bad. So one of the first things you can do is prevent shin splints in the first place. And one of the ways you can do that is by training your body or warming up your body and training your body to just, warm yourself up before you even start, and training your body to hit the ground lightly and not so heavy, because you want to take away the how much pressure you're putting on your foot in the first place. So one of the ways to warm up your body, is doing high knees, skips, jumps, and calf raises, things like that, toe raises. You want to make sure you do all of those things to warm up your body, because you always want to warm up your body first. But when you're practicing the skips or the jumps, you really want to practice landing like a cat. So you don't want to like that. You want to really focus on landing light. And that's going to train your body to run lighter. So there's a lot of people who they run a lot of miles and they don't run with proper form. So one of the things that a lot of coaches or people will suggest when you're running is, imagine a line that cuts your body in half, right? And when you're running, you don't want your feet to cross each other, which I actually do a lot. So there's a line and your foot is on both sides of that line. So you're never really crossing each other, because you don't want to make this inward movement with your legs. You want to really try to practice good form. Another thing to practice when you're running, a lot of people run with their butt out. You want to think about, when you're running, which is really hard to do, is your hips are a little bit forward, and that shape of your body puts less pressure on your legs and your shins, okay? But that's not always easy to do, and there are other things you can do to help prevent shin splint injuries. And one of those things that you want to do is work the opposing muscle. So when you run, or when you play soccer or basketball or all these other sports, you're putting all this pressure on your quads, your shin muscles, all these muscles in the front part of your leg. But if you start working the back of your leg, you're going to transfer some of that energy and pain into your hamstrings or calves, and your glutes, so you won't have as much weight or pressure going onto those shins. So one of the first exercises you can do is called a deadlift, and what it is you're bending straight at your hips and you're working your lower back and your hamstrings. And what you want to do is make sure you bend at your hips, not your knees. You also want to make sure that you're bringing your hands as close to your shins as possible. You don't want to be reaching out. The reason is if you do, you're going to hurt your lower back. So you bend over right at your hips, and notice how my hands are so close to my body. I know I don't really have a bar with me or weights, but if you do, you want to almost drag it across your shins, because that's how you're doing proper flow. I'm not reaching out here. You're keeping it nice and close to your shins. I'm going to show you sideways right here. Like I said, you really want to work the hamstrings and your glutes because you want to work the opposing muscles of your body. So the hamstring curl machine is one machine you can use, but I don't always like using machines. The reason is machines aren't always made for people of shorter heights. Sometimes they're made for taller people, and this is just easier, especially if you don't have a machine on you. So what you do is you put your legs up on the ab ball, bring your hips up, and you're curling your toes in. And you're really going to feel that in your hamstrings, your calves and glutes. If you want to add a little ab work, go ahead, add those arms in. And that also helps strengthen your core, which is great to prevent shin splints as well. But you want to work on those hamstrings and your calves. So warm up, and you want to make sure you work the opposing muscles. Another thing you want to make sure you're doing is you're not overtraining right away. So your body takes time to get used to training. And once the weather gets nice out, people kind of start going crazy. They want to get all the weight off fast. They want to start playing outside. Take your time to build up, because if you start running or training fast right away, you're going to be more prone to injury. So take your time, and also just remember that you want to make sure that you're doing everything right. So if you're going so fast so soon and you get injured, you're not going to be able to do what you want later, because shin splints are really, really hard to get rid of. So another thing that you want to do is, if possible, when you're training, you want to make sure you're trying to run on a hard surface, or not on a hard surface. A hard surface like asphalt or concrete really puts a lot of strain on your body. So when you can, you want to run on the grass, or run on different surfaces to help prevent all that pounding. If you cannot do that, then just try to run as light as possible with the best form possible. So you know how before I was talking about you want to build your hamstrings and all that kind of stuff? When you're doing weights, you do want to do that. But if you're running, you want to make sure that some of your workout is backwards. Now, this is the biggest thing I learned when I actually had shin splints myself, is this really helps avoid getting shin splint injury. So what I'm talking about is when I was a runner, I ran 70, 80 miles a week, and obviously I couldn't train less volume because my coach wanted me to run that much, but I would take a quarter to an eighth of my workout and run it backwards. The reason that helped is just like doing the deadlifts, it works the hamstrings and the other parts of your muscles so that you're not really, so that you're working the other parts, so that you're not overtraining that one side. Okay, so I hope that this video helped you learn some tools you can use to avoid overtraining and avoid shin splints. The last thing I want to talk about that a lot of people really don't want to talk about is your shoe. And the reason is a lot of people think that just because they bought a new shoe means that the shoe is good for them. what you might not know is a lot of people have different types of feet. There's shoes for people who underpronate. It's a style of running where you your knees go in, or overpronate, or people who have a stable foot. And some people just buy a nice new shoe and they think that this shoe, because it's new, should really be good enough. You want to make sure you're buying the right shoe, because I notice once my shoes start going bad, or if I have the wrong shoe, that's when your shin splints start happening. And you want to make sure you have the right shoe. So if you don't know what type of foot you have, I would suggest, you don't have to buy the shoe from the running store, but I would suggest to go to a running shoe store to get your foot analyzed, and then that way they can tell you what type of foot you have. And then if you want to go cheaper, go online and find that shoe online, or just find those kind of shoes you need online, and it probably will be cheaper that way. Just get to know what your foot is in the first place, and then it should be better for you, because I always notice when I get new shoes, I have to start getting new shoes once my shins or my knees start hurting, and it really helps. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is ice and heat. So, you know, trainers always say ice or heat your injuries, and you don't think anything of it. But your shins, you want to make sure you ice and heat them, because you want to make sure you're bringing blood to the area, because bringing blood to the area helps bring healing to the area. So you want to put your legs in an ice bucket for a couple minutes, take them out, put it in, and take it out. And that's really going to help ease some of the pain as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any other video suggestions, let me know. And hopefully this helped you. If it did, comment below or share it. And hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.